Alright, Travis Wayne Goodsell. Just a follow-up thing here that's not going to get as many votes as my first Mormon Porn Wars video did, which is strange that the other one hasn't done as well too. But looking at the analytics, the average person's only watching 50 seconds. You got to wait me out. I get to the topic if you just wait me out. Or with the video thing, you can actually bump ahead to where I start talking about it. But some interesting points. First, John, I warned you. I'm not approving any of your comments that give me the BS nonsense about the church in collusion with the Democrats. It's not going to happen. You have not convinced me. You cannot get me to approve your video comment if you're going to continue to perpetuate this lie. The pedophiles were exposed as Republicans, first and foremost. Although, yes, Clinton was a part of that. But for the most part, they were Republican. Remember Trump? He was a part of it too. And again, the church is alt-right, Nazi, white supremacist Republican. So don't tell me they're communist Democrat. It will not work. Speaking of communism, a person commented, I'm not going to approve her video either, because she's just rambling off speculation without any actual research, like John. She talks about Revelation and seems to identify the beast and the false prophet. She forgets about the dragon identification. I'm sure she assumes it's just Lucifer, who isn't an actual personification in human form. And so she says the beast of communism, so she's referring to the beast as the government system of communism as the beast, rather than an individual. John makes it very clear the beast is an individual, that it is not a government form. So, yeah, I automatically recognize her as being wrong because of that minor error and their false prophet. Again, when you make an error, see how it leads you far off course? And so she's again assuming that the Pope is the false prophet. I need to define Pope for all of you because nobody seems to know, not even Christians, not even Catholics. It means bishop. A pope is a bishop. Well, why is he the bishop? Why is he just a lowly bishop? Because that's the title of a bishop. It's a lowly position. Remember, there was Jesus, the teacher. Then you have the 12 apostles, also called disciples. Then you had other organizations that were referred to. There were a group of apostles, separate and distinct from the 12 apostles. Paul was one such of this other group. He was not one of the 12. He was not put in as the 13th or any other crap like that. He was of this other group of apostles. How do we know that there was another group? Because there's other people who are also mentioned as being a part of this other group of apostles. Jania, the female. Romans 16. And so, then there's deacons and evangelists and pastors and that whole list that's in that one particular passage. But there are also 70. And not too much is discussed about what the 70 did, but there were 70, and it seemed to be more of financial with what they were doing rather than administrative. And then you had Luke, who hung around those who had a thorn in their side, suspected to be diabetes. So he was a doctor. And so, how do we get a pope to run the whole organization? He's just a bishop, not a prophet, not an apostle, just a bishop. Well, after the apostles were assassinated, who was there to run the church? No one. No one ran the church anymore. And so the Christians, as they were under attack by the Romans, it's that time of the day where I have to open the windows to breathe. And it sounds like my neighbor is doing some woodworking. The church only functioned among the individual congregations, and the bishops were those in charge of those congregations. And so that's as far as their authority went, was just over their congregation. And the apostles, as you see in the epistles and in the book of Acts, they had to go around and correct the errors that kept creeping up in the various congregations, because they weren't in touch with the apostles and the doctrine that they were presenting. And so, all of these different congregations all were preaching different gospels, different doctrines. And not too many decades later, that's exactly what they were doing. They would attach their one congregation to one of the gospels, and there were hundreds. There were hundreds of churches, congregations, hundreds of gospels. Each one tended to pick the gospel they liked for their popular vote, or where Marcion had disputed with his bishop, and then split off to form his own congregation. And sometimes it was the bishop who chose, and the people, members, just had to accept it or bye-bye. And then they also attached a creed based on the gospel that they chose. And so their creed reflected their belief system based upon the gospel they chose. And so, we only have 4 gospels that were accepted when there's others. Wasn't Peter the head of the church? Why isn't Peter's gospel in there? It's called a pseudepigrapha? A fake document? A fake gospel? Shocking. But that's what they did. Is the congregation would say, we're right, all of you others are wrong. And so when the Nicene Creed came about, Constantine threatened all the bishops. I am not going to fund your organizations unless you come up with one organization and one creed. And they were under a time constraint because it was taking too long. It was during the summer, and they couldn't figure out who God was. And so Constantine settled it for them, Hamusius. And with Constantine, he was king. And as king, he was also the religious leader of the Roman Empire. And so he was like King David. And so, interestingly, after the Holy Roman Empire collapsed, what you get are the bishops deciding who is to be the successor to the Holy Roman Empire kings. And over time, if you're unfamiliar with history, there have been multiple popes and wars and conflicts and kings choosing a new pope over another pope, and banishing a pope because he wants to kill his wife and marry another wife. All sorts of chaos. But that's all it is bishops popes are just bishops. They're not kings like Constantine or David. They have no authority to run the whole church, but it was given to them, and so they do. And so the false prophet of John's is not the Pope, because you need to identify where his signs that he talks about in chapter 12, plus the sun and the moon darkening, where they occur. The sun darkening was the first clue, but the moon darkening also, turning to blood, also gives you a clue, because the sun refers to government, the moon refers to religion. The kings were the government leaders and the religious leaders, and so the darkening refers to a collapse or death of the king, and the need for a restoration, a restitution, a replacement, because death or collapse, collapse especially, involves a usurpation of the throne, a corruption of the government, a corruption of the religion by a bad leader. Thus, false prophet over a false religion. The beast is not a general government system, it's an actual person who's a government leader. And so you're looking for a separate entity, split, a government leader and a religious leader in the same land where the signs occur. And so 21st of August 2017, answer solved. Trump is the beast. Nelson of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is the false prophet, because it occurred over America. The Pope is not centered in America. He's in Italy. The Mormon Church is in America. In fact, in Judah, if you're unfamiliar with phonetics. And so, if both Trump and the false prophet are those two characters, and Nelson are those two characters, then you understand who the dragon is. Because Trump wants a Trump Tower in Moscow. Nelson got up and announced in his very first conference, we're going to have a temple in Russia. But now all hell's broken loose. But Putin is the dragon. That's how you figure it out. It's not complicated. It's not a guess. You go according to what it says. And so, sure enough, you can confirm, what does the beast do? His image speaks blasphemies. He has the sign of the beast on his forehead. MAGA. And apparently there's a HBO show, I guess it is, where the guy was making a joke about Trump's hat, MAGA hat. And it made the news last night. As Trump tweets about it, thinking it was a good thing. Didn't understand that it was mocking him. And so, you got to get the correct information. Once you stray just a little bit, everything that branches off from that stray is also wrong. And that's what I can't get through to the Mormons. Brigham Young was not right. He strayed. And that means everyone else down until Nelson is all wrong. They don't have authority. They are the false prophets. So, alrighty. I just thought that was curious. So I'm deleting it. Bye-bye. Okay. And then I want to get to... get it. What is the playlist? Videos, there we go. So 32 for my porn war destruction. And then 205 for porn wars resist. Gotta keep listening. I'm trying to instruct you on certain things, to tie things together, to, whatever. Nobody cares. But, yeah, I'm also interested that none of the haters have come to those 2 videos either. So that's very interesting too. I'm expecting thumbs down and I'm not getting any. So again, it just seems to prove that people see the word porn as they're typing in YouTube porn. And my videos pop up. Mormon porn? Oh, awesome. Click. Oh, man. You can tell by my thumbnail. It's just me, because YouTube have given me grief over the thumbnails, unlike the other channel with the classic formatting. I was able to put a whole bunch of fun stuff. And then a Mormon didn't want me to continue, so he shut me down.